Hello everyone, how's it going? My name is Dewi and this is my brother.
Oh,
And today we're here to finally talk about our Stargate review.
Yes.
Now, this is a big show and there is far too much to cram into one video.
way too much.
So today we're going to be talking about just Stargate SG1 and save like Stargate Atlantis and the movies for another review later on.
Yes.
So I think it's quite cool talking about this because I used to watch it back in the day when it came out. Like, I mean, it came out in the 90s, but when I was old enough to watch it, I started watching, I think it was like early 2000s or whatever it was. And I really enjoyed the show.
And then I started watching it very recently. You've been rewatching it with me.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like we have two different perspectives. You having the perspective when it was first coming out, and me having the perspective of someone who's watching it just now.
Yeah.
Since we only finished it quite recently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a lot to cover, far too much to cover in this video. So we'll just do SG1.
Yeah, and a general overview on what we thought of really the show, the characters, and so maybe episodes along the way that we thought like kind of stood out, you know, from others and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So obviously SG1 themselves, you know, the real people behind it all.
So Daniel, Sam,
Tilk
and Jack. Yeah.
And Hammond of Texas. You can't forget about him. You never
Yeah.
had SG1, but he was always the leader, you know, who sent them through and always had their backs.
You are Hammond of Texas.
Hammond of Texas, yeah. I loved Hammond of Texas.
Yeah.
Brilliant character.
But, no, I really liked it. I really liked Tilk. Obviously, it was really weird seeing as I'd first seen him as Kratos. Now I'm seeing him in, like, this sci-fi thing. But I really liked his portrayal. He was probably one of my favourite characters in the whole show. What do you think of Tilk?
Oh, I love Tilk. Indeed. No, I love Tilk. His whole persona, you know, the warrior Jafar that he is, who stands by SG1 to go against like Apophis, who we believe wants to be his god.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what did you think as well of like the enemy at that time, which were like all the symbiote gods, the Gould?
I think the Gould were a very cool villain. Obviously, they are nothing compared to the villains in the later seasons and in like the other shows and stuff. But I thought they were really cool villains with like them posing to be these Egyptian gods. And obviously as the seasons got along, they became more and more powerful. Because you start off with Apophis, and then you get to people like Anubis. He was really cool. I really liked Anubis.
Well, I think that's the whole thing, is you want to set, even though you always think the bar's already high, you're going against these alien, like advanced civilizations, you know, to find another way to go that extra bit further. I love the whole Egyptian mythology around them and the Stargates, that they were posed as the beings that created them, but you find out
they were far from being the ones that created them.
Yeah. But you also got characters, like Samantha Carter, the scientist. She was really cool.
I liked Samantha.
Yeah, I thought she was really good. And you had Daniel Jackson, the archaeologist.
Yeah, I honestly think I liked Daniel and Jack more than I thought I would going into it. I really did grow attached to them, and especially the whole like banter that Daniel and Jack had between each other. It was really funny. And
then you had Jack O'Neill with two L's, who was played by Richard Dean Anderson, or MacGyver back in the day. I know you haven't watched that, but the actor played MacGyver as well. But no, I love Jack because in the movie they were Daniel and Jack were actually played by James Spader and Kurt Russell. I knew about Kurt Russell, but I think, I don't know why, I always thought that it was the same actor for Daniel for some reason. I think they just look so similar. But I only found out, I think a few months ago, that it was James Spader, and like, oh yeah, I can see
the
that
guy that played Ultron.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. They do look very much alike, though. Jack does have a very sort of dark past, I guess you could say. I mean, they all have dark past, but primarily Jack and Tilk.
Yes.
With Jack's son, and then Tilk's whole serving of Apophis and stuff. Yeah. But, no, I really liked them as characters. And then you've got all the other characters, like, as we mentioned before, Hammond of Texas.
Yes.
Braytak,
yeah.
Braytak was so cool. I love Braytak.
There's certain, like, little, I mean, obviously the show can be serious, you know. I think that's where it does well. It, like, balances out the comedy
with the seriousness,
Yeah, because, you know, the seriousness, you know, we're going to try and be annihilated by all these, like, aliens and stuff like that. But they do fit in the comedies, like especially like, you know, like with Jack and Daniel, like Jack.
Yeah.
Daniel. And, there's just the comedy aspects you have in between there. It doesn't feel forced, it feels kind of natural.
Though you did have that one comedy episode with Tilk and Jack where they were in the loop.
Yeah,
that one was funny.
Yeah, that one was brilliant, where they kept replaying events over and over again, and they learned how to juggle, took a loop off to play some golf through the Stargate.
Colonel O'Neill, what are you doing? In the middle of my backswing!
7 billion miles, O'Neill. Light years, O'Neill. Man, that's gotta be a record. Yeah, I know, that was fantastic. I love that one. That's actually kind of a big popular one. And as I said before, we'll be going over some of these episodes that we think stood out as well, because there are a lot. And, they all, I think what's cool as well is as the seasons go, they all, still carry on the story from other characters. You had, like Colonel Mayborn, and, even though the Gould are a threat, we've got our own problems here back on Earth, governments and stuff like that, the NID and all that.
I was about to say with the NID, yeah. I quite like how that story progressed, actually. I thought the NID were quite a cool concept for basically the government wanting to take the Stargate and stuff.
You had Colonel Mayborn,
Senator Kenzie.
Kenzie. My God, another piece of work. You had a lot of other people here who were trying to take control. So that was another aspect. Who was stealing technologies from other races as well.
Yes.
That Jack had to infiltrate. And some of the races you meet along the way were, well, actually, what's kind of cool is I think this was in the first season or second season, but where they have to go rescue I can't remember his name, on another world. What you find is on this world is that there were 4 very powerful races that banded together to share technology and stuff. And you find out later on that one were the Nods who you meet two, I think it was
twice,
the very one of the first seasons, I think it was. You find out about invisibility technology they've advanced in themselves and stuff like that.
Cities.
Yeah, and stuff like that. It's a shame you don't really get to see more development.
I would have liked to have seen more of them, to be honest.
The Asgard, who were really cool because they were based on Norse mythology.
Yeah.
And I like that whole concept because I know they were the enemies of the Gauls. So it's Egyptian versus Norse, which was quite cool. And you also had a race that you've never seen, but you've heard of maybe once in one episode. Right?
Yeah.
So it was the season where Jonas was in it, actually, and they were talking about the Furlings, but you never see them. And I know about that little cameo thing that they did once where, that never happened. And there was this one little shoot that they took where they did meet them, and I think it was maybe being planned, but they never
I think they were in one episode as a little joke thing in a dream sequence.
That was it. That was it. No, it was the 200th episode, and they were looking back.
Yes, that was it, the 200th episode.
That, and they were meant to be that never happened. Well, I don't know. You could have called them something else if you weren't happy with the name. I don't know. And then you had the Ancients.
The source of most of the problems in this show.
Yes, actually, considering, they created the Stargates and the Gould, took credit for that technology.
Took that technology to become as powerful.
The Ori later on.
And sort of responsible for the replicators.
Yes.
Which is a completely different thing.
That's more involved with Atlantis. Yeah. But you could say that they pretty much are the source of all the big problems that we have within this, and probably the cause for the show existing. Because if you don't have these enemies, then, don't have these powerful characters to go against.
Oh yeah, and then I guess since we're speaking of all the different enemies, things like the replicators and Asgard, I thought that they could have probably done a bit more with the Asgard, because they've obviously introduced Thor, Heimdall, and Loki. I think it would have been cool to see people like Odin and stuff in there. But
I don't know how much I wanted to root into Norse. At the end of the day, this is still a sci-fi, spaceship battle sort of thing. And I think with them, to be fair, we got a lot more out of the Asgard than any other race that we have seen. I mean, I'd say the Ancients as well a bit, but, that's been every now and then, and they've ascended and all that business. But with the Asgard, at least, you saw and heard a lot more from them. And we got help from them in the end, gained their trust.
Yeah, before they died.
Yeah, which is...
That was sad.
I know, I remember telling you that, that is literally how they're finished off as well. Because it was one of the last ever episodes. In fact, it was the last episode.
Yeah, it was the last episode of SG1.
It was the last episode, it was season 10. It was the last episode of SG1. And it was, they gave the last, their technology onto no, not the Prometheus, but it was one of our ships.
Yeah, I really think Jack should have been there, to be honest, because he had like a really like deep friendship with Thor. So I think it would have been nice for him to at least have that one last farewell to him before Thor died.
I think another cool episode were like the time you first meet some of the System Lords, and you had like Lord Yu and stuff come over, and and Cronus.
I love that joke that they keep on having. It's like, Lord Yu, me, and then Daniel's like, don't do that. It's been done to death 1,000 times over.
It's no. This is what I said before. I love the comedy they do fit in there. It's just like well done. To be fair, but that episode was good because it gives you the first. I think it was the first time you heard about a new enemy that wasn't the Ghoul, because you had like the Ghoul now for 2 or 3 seasons. But this is the first time now that you actually heard of a new enemy. And I was excited for you to watch that episode. It's like, oh, this is the one where you're going to start hearing about them. And then, Thor says, it's not something we're proud of to let the Gould go this far. It's just we're so preoccupied with an enemy that is taking most of our time and resources. That's worse than the Gould. And Danny's like, I'm sorry, worse? And it's like, yeah, I remember you thinking, hang on, the Gould are like, they pretty much control the whole galaxy. How the hell is there an enemy that could be stronger than them?
Oh, but there are so many people that just dwarf the Gould in terms of power.
And that's cool, because then you get, I think it's like, it's near the end of the season, because it was a 2-part crossing next season, where Thor, teleports Jack onto the ship, and then you start hearing the metallic sound of the replicators, the spider-like replicators, and it was like, what? That was really cool.
And then that episode where they were on like the submarine, it was sort of like a horror episode, really.
Oh yeah, because it was the Russian submarine. That was it. They were investigating what the crash was, and when the replicators survived, and they started replicating everywhere.
They did surprisingly have like kind of sort of horror episodes, like the one where Tilt got infected by like that bug alien stuff.
I never lie. I tell you what, yeah. I mean, I was younger than you at the time, I think, but I remember that episode. It kind of gave me Alien vibes, honestly, where they just like burst out the stomach, because there was that one footage that they showed where they saw some cocoon people inside a cave, and like loads of them started coming out of him, and I'm like, oh, okay, something, I can't be dealing with that.
Yeah, so they did have like quite a few horror episodes, which I was surprised about, to be honest. But yeah, and then obviously you had the other villains later on, Replicators, Gould, and then the Ori.
Yes, the Ori were season 8.
Yes, 8.
Where
9 and 10, because they were
9 and 10, yeah, they were the last. I don't know why I think of 10.
8 was killing off Anubis.
Yeah, 8 was killing off Anubis. It was 9 and 10, and you introduced I guess you could say Jack's replacement, which was Mitchell.
Yeah.
And he was the person who fought in Antarctica. Actually, yeah, that's another great. That was
Antarctica.
Yeah, because I was really excited, because it felt like
the culmination
of so much that Stargate had. I mean, it was season 6, I think it was.
Yes.
6 or 7, and you hear they all come together. Braytak helping SG1 to find the lost city, and you hear things about Elizabeth, who comes in to take over SG1. You see the president for the first time. And I think, I'm not too sure, but when I was pulling it up on the TV when we watched it, this was planned, I think, originally for the movie. It was like such a big thing.
That would make sense because of just the sheer scale of everything, with having like all the different ships that humanity have built all this time fighting against the Gould, and Hammond leading them as well.
Yeah, because I think what they did cleverly before that was they had another flashback episode, like showing the events that led up to this moment, trying to find the lost city, Daniel being ascended, then back to being a human again, and the events that led up to this moment, and more the system laws and stuff, and how big of a threat Anubis was becoming part ancient, well, part ascended, really. I thought that was really well done, because you went in there then with the knowledge of what is at stake. It literally is everything. Anubis has dominated now the galaxy. He has this massive
He's taken everything. He's destroyed the system lords.
And when he finds out that we have a lead on the city, he then comes straight to Earth with his massive... This ain't Apophis in like season 1, it was just 2 ships. This is like an entire fleet of like Gould motherships, and you're like, okay, this is big. How the hell do we get out of this one? And then you had cool things where the thing is, right, I I like that episode when Jack had his head like clenched around and his head, where the device was like wrapped around his head to give him the ancient depository knowledge. Where they first meet the Asgards, and it was called the Fifth Race. I really loved that episode.
I think that was pretty cool as well. I also really liked I can't remember exactly whether it's the season finale of season 9 or something, but it was the one where they had the replicators fighting the Gould. Not
that wasn't
the one...
season 9. That was season 7, I think. Something like where they had to use like the massive ancient weapon to go through every single Stargate in the galaxy.
Yeah, and it was also the same one where you had Anubis getting killed off at the end.
Yeah, that was when Omar Dasal like sacrificed himself to kill him in the Ascendant Plane, thereby killing him, I guess you could say, in the real world.
Yeah, because the ancients would have just taken him up for misbehaving, I guess you could say.
So you had that. The reason why I was mentioning about the Fifth Race is because that same technology was used with Jack with the Antarctica thing, and then going to find basically the Lost City. Where what I really like is you hear the first theme tune of Stargate Atlantis in that, the tease that, you know, the spin-off show.
I still have to rewatch that part to see if I can pick up on the Atlantis theme.
Because he sat in the chair, the ancient chair, and I'm like, oh god, this is it, this is so cool. And, you know, you hear about the ancients and where the Lost City is, and then you find out that it was actually on Earth this entire time. Not on another planet, not on another galaxy, but actually on Earth this entire time. And what's cool is it gives another reference to another episode, which was where Jack and Carter was stuck in Antarctica.
The gate in Antarctica.
Because you find out that basically that the Gould, you know, you weren't they weren't the gate builders, that there was another civilization here.
Yeah.
And that Stargate was here before Ra even came.
Yeah, before Ra brought his Stargate over, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. I really liked that part. I think it was one of the times where I was like, what, like one of the most mind-blowing parts of that, and the reveal that the ancients were the Ascended.
Yes.
I think those were the two biggest mind-blowing parts of SG1 for me. Because, like, what?
Yeah. I knew, because you had things like Kep, that episode where Daniel, you know, tries to go find, you know, basically his wife's son. And that was another thing, because you actually do technically meet an ancient in that one time, in that episode. The whole Antarctica thing, though, that was definitely a culmination of loads of things brought together, and the Prometheus as well, our first spaceship. The Battle of Antarctica was fantastic. You had the Gould and us, you know, fighting in the middle, and then it was literally a race to find the city first and get into that chair with Jack, and then fire up all those drones, which were quite... I like the design of the drones. They weren't just some, like, beam weapon, you know, or anything like that, you know. They were like a physical weapon that had energy to them that could, like, penetrate through, like, the whole
basically anything.
Yeah.
And it just destroyed Anubis' ship. How the hell the public didn't find out about the Stargate at that point, though, is like...
Well, I mean, it is that fact, as they kept it hidden because of the whole, like, spaceship program. I mean, not spaceship program, like the space satellites and stuff like that, you know. Obviously they knew about it, but they couldn't get to the public. Although there was that one episode where another company tried to
because they made up their own Asgard and
that
stuff.
was the one, and that was not long after. So someone did pick up on it and try to go public with it, but it never happened, because at the time you had another enemy that was kind of born from the old organization, now called the Trust.
Oh yeah, because the Trust was like what remained of the
organization with Mayborn and stuff. Yeah, like that.
I can't remember the name.
So they were corrupted by Goulds later on.
Yeah, and Kenzie was a part of them.
Yeah, later on. You never find out what happened to him though in the end, which is
I guess you're just meant to believe that he died.
Yeah, because he picked up like the gauntlet thing that they used for the ring transport to go beamed up and down from Earth. But you know, the ship blows up, you just never hear a word again.
Maybe if we got another season, then we would have found out.
Yeah, possibly. No, you had things like that, and the Trust. Obviously, we talked about the replicators. This does go a bit more now into the whole Ori area. But with the replicators, actually, how they finished them off, activating all the Stargates throughout the galaxy
Yeah.
at the same time, because they knew if they didn't do that, they'd adapt to the technology and it wouldn't be effective anymore. So they had to hit them all at one time, which I really did like.
Yeah, I thought that was so really good. I think it's sort of an underrated sort of part. The whole finally getting rid of the replicators and then Anubis right after it. Even though I think we should have actually seen the actual battle on the Jafar sort of homeworld where Anubis was trying to get the button
Yeah.
to wipe out everything. I think we should have seen that. But aside from that, I thought it was an amazing sort of 2-3-parter.
Another good episode was when the Gould first met the replicators, which actually was Apophis.
Yeah.
And it was actually this time Apophis is actually dying, because he's died a couple of times and you're like, right, he's dead this time, he's dead this time. No, he's back. And then Jack even says, what does it take to kill this guy? Can he not stay dead? But obviously they got the sarcophagus technology, which resurrects them, and that was a cool episode because as Apophis dies, you see them all crawling up his shield and crashing into his own planet,
Yeah.
or his new planet now.
His new planet that he got from the Sokar, who was sort of just didn't really do much, to be honest.
I know, they set up this really powerful villain that could have taken nearly all the system at one time, and they never did it. Well, I'm going to say they weren't going to, but they allowed Apophis to take
over, which was sad, because I think that Sokar would have been probably a better villain.
Yeah, because, I mean, someone who posed as the devil and not as the god, which is definitely a different take, which I would have liked to have seen more. Plus, he used it like an Unas race as well. What did you think of the design of the Unas?
I thought they were interesting. I thought it was cool that they were like the original
hosts.
Yeah, and I quite like how it seems as if though it was all practical.
Yeah, because that first episode with Thor's hammer and Tilk and Jack were trapped in the cave.
Oh, yeah.
You really liked it because you were like, what the hell is that? And it's like, it was really alien. It's not like a humanoid. It's like it looks quite alien.
Yeah.
Its design. And I think that was what was quite cool about the Unas. But you find out later on that they themselves aren't really, evil. Or they're just more like...
It's misunderstood.
Yeah, misunderstood. But, primitive and quite, rugged and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's the Gould that really made them really evil,
Yeah.
That's not to say they're not dangerous, because obviously they've proven that they are. It's just, it's if you can treat them with respect, then I'm sure they'll treat you with respect. You had that, the Ori later on, which, where do you think of the Ori as an enemy?
I thought it was really cool how they, drew their power from faith and the whole sort of Catholic approach that they went for it. Their ships were cool. I think their sort of foot soldiers looked really cool, going for that, again, Celtic sort of religion type deal, and even intertwining with the ancients and Merlin.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because there's a little cameo from this from Stargate Atlantis, which I'm sure we'll talk about when we talk about that show. But, yeah, I knew what was coming up, the new themes that they were going with. It was no longer like Norse and Egyptian, like with the Asgard and the Gould and all that, but you were going to go for more of a Celtic versus Catholic type sort of thing here, because you had like Merlin and Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table sort of helping Merlin to create, well, I would say helping, they probably wouldn't know because Merlin was the only ancient at that time, but to help him maybe to make a weapon to defeat the Ori, as you say, a more Catholic type of vibe, like, hello are the Ori, and they're reading from, like, I guess you could say their own version of the Bible. And what's cool is, this ain't just what they did, I think, was clever, was, instead of maybe creating a new villain, they created, I guess you could say, the Gould again, but they took it to a new level, because they weren't just people posing as God.
They actually did have the power.
They did have the power. They literally, they were all right. They were ascended beings. They literally could do those things in their galaxy. But in our galaxy, the angels are here and they have laws that, prohibit that sort of things from happening, which is why the Ori are like, right, now we need to gain power. And then over time, you learn sort of how they gain their strength. Like, they, as you say, they sap the energy from their followers that believe in them. And it's like, okay, that's a new dynamic. And we can see now why they are so heavily dependent on their followers to give them that energy.
And they even found a sort of way around the Ancients thing through, I can't remember her name, but, the
Oh, the Aura side, the Vala's daughter, you mean?
Yes, and going.
Because she kind of cheats the sort of ascendant play rule book.
Yeah, because sort of ascended being going into a human, I guess you could say, to sort of act as a vessel, to speak on their behalf, and that was sort of like a cheat code for a way for them to actually get into the fight themselves without getting into a direct conflict
Yeah.
with the other ancients.
You had the
So-
priors themselves, which were powerful because they had their own powers and stuff. They could spread like diseases and viruses to other
Yes.
civilizations. I'd say what the end of season 9 was quite big because it was Camelot, and
Yeah.
you find out about King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table and Merlin, and your first hint of a weapon, and that weapon is basically a weapon to kill ascended beings, and it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, right, hang on a second now, there is that such a thing as possible. And I guess you're maybe meant to believe that because that sort of theme they would go with, maybe it could have been Excalibur,
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Excalibur.
but maybe that was too obvious. I don't know. Maybe they wanted to change it.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it was the San Graal, which is like this red gemstone that Merlin wore. And I thought, that's quite cool. I mean, at the end of the day, how would you use a sword, I guess, a representation of a sword to kill ascending beings? You'd have to go to maybe where the speaker to the Ori was, where you open those like bars. To,
Yeah,
like, the
and then
flame.
like put the sword in there.
Or just swipe and reach just like an energy wave or something.
Yeah.
But then again, you'd still have to get there, and they own their own galaxy. So how the hell would you do that when they just strike lightning on you?
I
and
mean,
you die?
Tilk managed to just walk his way over there, so...
Yeah, that's because they were all dead. That was the movie, remember?
Yeah.
It was only Thingy that was still alive.
The Orosai.
And she was distracted by Morgana.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they introduced Morgana in SG1 as well,
Yes. You see her. Well, actually, technically in Stargate Atlantis, because there were crossovers between the two.
Yeah.
But that time they did go over to Atlantis, and that was a cool. I love that speech from Daniel when he said, and I am getting sick and tired of, not getting basically any help. We're out there fighting now, the Ori, because if we lose, you know exactly who they're going to come for next. And she knows as well, because as soon as they sapped all the followers they need from our galaxy, they'll have the energy to kill the ancients.
Yeah. So, I did really like that sort of speech that Daniel had, because he really was getting sick and tired, because he'd ascended, and he'd seen everything from
Their perspective.
from their perspective, from the fact that really we can't and don't want to help, while you're letting people like Anubis, who was half ascended anyway, get away with all this stuff.
Yeah, I think Daniel's attitude towards, I guess you could say, the ancients kind of changed after being ascendant, because I think he kind of realized, thinking maybe, I don't know, like the ancients got there to maybe because they were better, not just because of their technology, but as in better beings. But he gets up there and realizes,
that they're not better.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're selfish.
Yeah, and it's just a case of, obviously there are some good angels like Oma Desal there,
Yes.
Morgana, when she realizes by stopping Merlin, she also stopped the way to defeat the Ori, because for what threat they could, be able to come.
Yeah.
She did try, and she did try to give out the message saying that Merlin was still alive, he's not, dead or anything like that,
Yeah.
because he was in stasis. That was cool. Seeing Merlin in stasis.
Yeah, in stasis.
And I just need you all to be prepared for what comes next. And Val was like, well, you must realize what it's taken for us to get here. And says, my dear, what you have gone through is nothing compared what is needed to come to next. And I think it's because they were planning on a season 11.
Yes.
And a lot more. Because I can only imagine what they could have done if they had another season. The Ori could have still, come over and, that's the thing. At the end of that season, 5 more ships came through. It's hard enough trying to destroy one of those things, let alone 5
Yeah,
more
they
that
needed
come
all the
through.
latest Asgard technology. Just
You did cool things like Tilt baiting one through the Supergate, which blew one up.
That was cool.
I like that. It's like, oh my god, you actually destroyed one. You actually did it, because there was 4 that came through the gate that end of season 9, and we got absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
And that was really cool, like that, wow, we'd lost, and we had...
And lost hard as well.
We had the Jafar motherships, we had an Asgard ship with us, we had 2 of our own ships, one of them got blown up, And we lost, we just...
We
and,
lost
and the,
everything.
And the Lucian Alliance came in
Yeah.
later on. It was
Lost
not enough. No, we didn't even destroy one of their ships. They all survived and carried on. They went to Chulak. That was it. And you started seeing their fighters trying to take over. And I thought, oh my god, this really feels now like a proper takeover, an invasion, well, the start of an invasion.
Yeah.
You know? But no, it was absolutely insane. I loved the dynamic that they had with it and how serious it was to the show. And as we talked about before, how it leads up to the end of season 10.
Yeah.
And
Which
what
that
happened
was
there, God.
that was interesting. I did like the end of season 10 where they're all stuck in that sort of, I guess, frozen in time moment.
Yeah.
And Tilk has to sacrifice 100 years of his life or something like that to undo everything.
It was not 100 years of his life, but
It was quite a lot.
It was a long time. We're talking maybe it may have been between maybe it was 40 years, something like that. But it was a long time.
Yeah. But obviously he can afford it because he's a Jafar. You know, he lives for ages and ages.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I really enjoyed SG1. I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know that you obviously enjoyed it, so...
I still watch it. Every time it comes up on the TV, I just have it there, even in the background, because I do enjoy the show in every episode. And there's a lot of episodes, we're talking about 10 seasons here, and there was 21 episodes in each season. I could talk about, Jack and Mayborn's sort of relationship, how Mayborn went from being, a bit of an idiot to being, all right, you're
an all right person.
And, the funny remarks where they tried to blackmail Kenzie. That was a good episode. And
I did really like that episode.
Starsky and Hutch, and then he's like, Starsky and Hutch, an actors. Oh, so you two are actors? And they both looked at each other, and it's a sort of, I know, fourth wall break.
Yeah.
And but I love that funny dynamic that those two had as well, just as much as Jack and Daniel. But no, I loved the show. I loved all the characters. I can't really fault all the SG1 cast, Tilk, Samantha Carter as well. She was fantastic.
Yeah,
and her ideas to blow up a sun. How many times does that get referenced?
And that gets referenced quite a lot.
You blow up one sun, and next thing you know, everyone expects you to walk on water. And you miss things like her father. We haven't talked about her father. Well, who's a Tok'ra and the Tok'ra as well. And that kind of dynamic that you had with them because of, the whole, they kind of used us quite a few times to fulfill their ends. The bracelet that made SG1 go fast, but kind of made them a bit childish in a way to go super strong. But they were allies in the end, and you found that they had their own problems, they were a dying race.
Yes.
Their queen died as well later on and stuff like that. So there was a lot. So as much as there's a lot of comedic moments and there's just a lot of serious moments, and they really did balance it out quite well, I think.
Yeah. So
what did you think?
I enjoyed it. I think there's way too much to cover even now, but I think we've covered as much as we can remember. I really enjoyed the show. I had a lot of fun watching it. What would you rate it then, the show?
I'd actually rate it a solid 10 out of 10 because the thing is, to me, this was quite nostalgic anyway, especially rewatching it with you. And the thing is that I like the pacing of the show. I know, oh God, I might get a lot of stick for this, to be honest, but I know you get a lot of Star Trek fans and a lot of Star Wars fans. I think I'm more of a Stargate fan.
Yeah.
I grew up on that. I'm not saying anything against Star Wars and Star Trek. I like both those as well. But for me personally, Stargate has always been the one I would go for. I just like it. I like how modern it is. I guess you could say 'cause in terms of time scale, it's far closer to us than any of the other two are. And I just like the characters, The character's fantastic. The story it's well paced. The enemies are really cool, And I'm sure we haven't covered all them. There could be some individual villains that we haven't talked about either. But no, I love the show. What would you rate it?
I would probably rate it a 9.5. I did really enjoy it. I can't put it up there as a 10, but I think it's really, really close to being it. Maybe if we'd gotten another season or so, then maybe it would have just gone up there.
Yeah.
But no, I really enjoyed it.
I think, actually, no, thinking about it, I would agree with you now. I think I'd give it a 9, only because they could have done another season or two to explain the Ori, actually.
Yes, to
I
flesh
think-
out some stuff.
I think they could have done some stuff to finish off some stories. I think actually. So no, I would agree with you now on that actually. But that would be the reason why I'd have it at that score, is because they could do it to finish off other stories that needed finishing off.
Yeah.
But no, that is it. I can't think of anything else. As I said
Me
before,
neither.
too big of a show. And again, this ain't the end, because we've got Stargate Atlantis to talk about next time. And obviously there's reasons why, because that's just nearly as big as SG1, so we're going to need another video just to cover that. So, can you anything else to add?
No, I don't think so.
In that case, that is going to be it for me, Derry, and my brother.
Oh, aye!
And we will catch you all in the next video. Bye-bye.
Ta-da!